The city of Pretoria, South Africa, is known for its historic landmarks and vibrant culture. But hidden among its picturesque streets is a house that has long been the subject of fear and fascination. The old Victorian-style mansion on Breyer Street had stood empty for decades, its windows boarded up and its garden overgrown with weeds. Locals whispered about strange occurrences and eerie sounds emanating from the house, claiming it was haunted by a poltergeist. Rebecca Lawson, a young paranormal investigator with a reputation for solving some of the most baffling hauntings, had arrived in Pretoria to uncover the truth behind the legends. With her equipment packed and her determination steeled, she made her way to the mansion, eager to document her findings. As Rebecca approached the house, she couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The air seemed colder, and the wind rustled the leaves with an eerie whisper. She paused at the gate, taking a deep breath before pushing it open. The creaking of the gate echoed through the quiet neighborhood, and Rebecca felt a shiver run down her spine. Determined not to let fear get the best of her, Rebecca stepped onto the overgrown path leading to the front door. She pulled out her flashlight and scanned the area, her heart pounding in her chest. The house loomed ahead, its dark windows like empty eyes watching her every move. Rebecca set up her equipment in the mansion's grand foyer, the walls adorned with faded wallpaper and dusty chandeliers. She placed motion sensors and cameras in strategic locations, hoping to capture any evidence of paranormal activity. As night fell, the mansion grew even more ominous, the shadows deepening and the silence becoming oppressive. Rebecca settled into a chair with her notebook, ready to document any unusual occurrences. Hours passed, and the only sounds were the ticking of the old grandfather clock and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Just as she began to think the night would be uneventful, she heard a faint whisper. "Leave." The word sent chills down Rebecca's spine. She looked around, trying to pinpoint the source of the whisper, but the room was empty. Determined to remain calm, she spoke softly into her recorder. "I heard a whisper. It said leave." Moments later, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and a cold breeze brushed against her skin. Rebecca's breath became visible in the frigid air, and she felt a presence behind her. She turned slowly, her flashlight cutting through the darkness, but there was nothing there. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Leave now." Rebecca's heart raced as she realized she was not alone. She glanced at her camera feed, hoping to catch a glimpse of the entity, but the screens showed only empty rooms. She knew she had to investigate further, but the growing sense of dread made it difficult to move. The next morning, Rebecca reviewed the footage from the previous night. While there were no visible apparitions, the audio recordings captured the chilling whispers and the sudden drop in temperature. Determined to understand the entity she was dealing with, Rebecca decided to delve into the history of the mansion. She visited the local archives, where she met Mrs. Jacobs, an elderly historian with a wealth of knowledge about Pretoria's past. Mrs. Jacobs listened intently as Rebecca explained her investigation and the strange occurrences at the mansion. "The house on Breyer Street has a dark history," Mrs. Jacobs said, her voice tinged with sadness. "It was built in the late 1800s by a wealthy businessman named Richard Holloway. He lived there with his wife, Eliza, and their young daughter, Clara. Tragically, Clara fell ill and passed away at a young age. Eliza was devastated and became obsessed with contacting her daughter's spirit. She dabbled in seances and the occult, but her efforts only seemed to invite something malevolent into the house." Rebecca listened, her curiosity piqued. "What happened to Eliza and Richard?" Mrs. Jacobs sighed. "Richard was found dead under mysterious circumstances, and Eliza's mental health deteriorated rapidly. She was eventually committed to an asylum, and the house was abandoned. Since then, there have been countless reports of paranormal activity. Some believe it's the spirit of Eliza, tormented by her grief and regret. Others think it's something darker, a poltergeist summoned by her desperate attempts to contact Clara. Armed with new information, Rebecca returned to the mansion, determined to make contact with the spirits that haunted its halls. She decided to conduct a séance, hoping to communicate with Eliza or any other entities that might be present. Rebecca set up a small table in the parlor, arranging candles and placing a Ouija board at the center. She dimmed the lights and took a seat, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She placed her hands on the planchette and closed her eyes, focusing her energy. "Eliza Holloway, if you are here, please make your presence known," Rebecca called out, her voice steady. The candles flickered, and the temperature in the room dropped once more. Rebecca felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips as the planchette began to move. It spelled out a single word: help. "Eliza, how can I help you?" Rebecca asked, her voice filled with empathy. The planchette moved again, spelling out, "Find Clara." Rebecca's heart ached for the tormented spirit. "I will do everything I can to help you find peace, Eliza." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the mansion, and the candles were extinguished. Rebecca's flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. She heard footsteps approaching, growing louder and more frantic. "Who's there?" Rebecca called out, her voice trembling. The footsteps stopped, and the room was plunged into silence. Rebecca took a deep breath and reached for her flashlight, determined to confront whatever was haunting the mansion. As Rebecca made her way through the darkened mansion, the oppressive sense of dread grew stronger. She felt a presence behind her, watching her every move. She turned a corner and froze, her flashlight illuminating a ghostly figure at the end of the hallway. It was a woman in a tattered dress, her eyes filled with sorrow and desperation. Rebecca recognized her from old photographs in the archives. It was Eliza Holloway. "Eliza," Rebecca whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm here to help you." Eliza's ghostly form seemed to waver, her eyes pleading. "Find Clara," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "She is lost. Help her." Rebecca's heart ached for the tormented spirit. "I will find her, Eliza. I promise." Eliza's form began to fade, but before she disappeared completely, Rebecca saw a look of gratitude in her eyes. Determined to fulfill her promise, Rebecca continued her search, following the faint whispers that echoed through the halls. She made her way to the attic, where the air was thick with dust and decay. As she climbed the creaking stairs, she felt a growing sense of unease. The attic was filled with old furniture, trunks, and forgotten memories. Rebecca scanned the room, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. In the far corner, she saw a small, dusty trunk. She approached it cautiously and opened the lid. Inside, she found a collection of old toys, letters, and a small portrait of a young girl, Clara. Rebecca's heart ached as she held the portrait, feeling the weight of the family's tragedy. Suddenly, she felt a cold breeze and heard a faint, childlike giggle. She turned to see a small, ghostly figure standing before her, a young girl with wide, innocent eyes. "Clara," Rebecca whispered, her voice filled with compassion. "I've found you." Clara's ghostly form smiled, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Help my mommy find peace." With Clara's spirit guiding her, Rebecca knew she had to confront the poltergeist that had plagued the mansion. She made her way back to the parlor, where the oppressive atmosphere seemed to intensify. The air crackled with energy, and Rebecca felt a powerful presence in the room. She took a deep breath and called out, "Eliza, I have found Clara. It is time for you to find peace." The temperature in the room plummeted, and the furniture began to shake. Rebecca's flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. She felt a force pushing against her, as if trying to drive her away. "I know you are hurting, Eliza," Rebecca continued, her voice steady. "But holding on to this pain will only bring more suffering. Let Clara guide you to peace." Suddenly, the shaking stopped, and the room was plunged into silence. Rebecca felt a warm, comforting presence, and she saw the ghostly forms of Eliza and Clara standing before her, holding hands. "Thank you," Eliza whispered, her eyes filled with gratitude. "We can finally be together." Rebecca watched as the spirits of Eliza and Clara slowly faded into the light, their forms dissolving into a sense of peace and tranquility. the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the mansion seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. With the spirits at peace, Caroline knew her work was done. She carefully packed up her equipment and left the mansion, feeling a sense of fulfillment and closure. The once haunted house was now quiet and still, its oppressive atmosphere lifted. As Caroline walked down the gravel path and through the creaking gate, she turned back for one last look at the mansion. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a warm glow on the old Victorian facade. It no longer appeared menacing, instead, it looked like a grand old house ready to embrace a new chapter. News of Caroline's successful investigation spread quickly through Pretoria. The townspeople, who had long been haunted by the mansion's dark history, felt a sense of relief and curiosity. Some were eager to learn more about the events that had unfolded, while others were simply grateful that the mansion's sinister presence was no longer a shadow over their community. Caroline compiled her findings and footage into a comprehensive report, which she presented to the local historical society. The society members were fascinated by her discoveries and thanked her for bringing closure to the mysterious hauntings. With the mansion's dark history unveiled and the spirits addressed, the property began to attract interest from potential buyers. A local preservation group purchased the mansion, with plans to restore it to its former glory and transform it into a museum and cultural center. They wanted to honor the history of the house and the people who had lived there, ensuring that their stories would not be forgotten. Caroline was invited to the grand reopening of the mansion, now named the Holloway Heritage Center. As she walked through the beautifully restored rooms, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The mansion, once a place of sorrow and fear, had become a beacon of history, education, and community. The center included exhibits about Richard, Eliza, and Clara Holloway, as well as the paranormal investigation that had brought their spirits peace. Visitors were able to learn about the family's history, the tragedy that had befallen them, and the remarkable journey that had led to the mansion's transformation. Caroline's investigation and the subsequent transformation of the mansion had a profound impact on the community. The Holloway Heritage Center became a popular destination for tourists and locals alike, offering a unique blend of history, culture, and the paranormal. Caroline's work was widely recognized, and she became a sought-after speaker and consultant on paranormal investigations. She continued to travel the world, uncovering and documenting haunted sites, but the case of the Holloway Mansion remained one of her most cherished and significant achievements. One evening, as Caroline stood on the balcony of the Holloway Heritage Center, gazing out at the sunset, she felt a gentle breeze and a sense of warmth. She knew in her heart that Eliza and Clara were at peace, their spirits forever grateful for the closure she had brought them. The legacy of the Holloway family and the transformation of the mansion served as a powerful reminder of the importance of seeking the truth, honoring the past, and finding peace in the face of tragedy. The mansion, once a symbol of fear, had become a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love and forgiveness. And so, the story of the Poltergeist of Pretoria lived on, a tale of mystery, redemption, and the unwavering determination of a young investigator who had dared to confront the shadows of the past and bring light to the darkest corners of history. If you enjoyed the thrilling and suspenseful tale of the Poltergeist of Pretoria and want more spine-chilling stories and captivating content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you stories that grip your imagination and keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for being part of our storytelling community.